The fact that Gojo is an invincible character doesn't necessarily make him a bad character, but he is a bad element for the story. Let's talk a little about that. So guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks the most about Jujutsu Kaisen on YouTube, and you're on my channel. First, let's establish some things. I know that in the manga and anime Gojo himself says that if he wanted to end the powerful, he could do it easily, but others would emerge and take their places, so he prefers to bet on the new generation, so that, little by little, we can change society. I understand this point of view put by the author, and I agree to a certain extent, but my problem with Gojo is not the fact that he is strong, because there are other very strong characters in Jujutsu, like Yuta for example. The problem with Gojo is that he is literally the most powerful character in the work, being able to defeat anyone with relative ease, as his 6 eyes and infinity powers make him virtually invincible. In a shonen where most of the resolutions of the plot's problems depend on the protagonist's fight and victory, having an invincible character is very problematic for the plot, as the script constantly needs to invent some situation in which the invincible character is not present, or you can't fight, so things won't be resolved very easily. And in the case of Gojo, let's be honest, all the fights in the anime so far would have been decided in a very short time and very easily if Gojo had been present. And I'm not saying that the anime and manga don't know how to deal with this competently, since in the story, the villains already take into consideration the fact that Gojo is invincible, and make plans focused on creating some situation in which Gojo is not present or cannot fight, so that they can have a chance to face the other weaker characters and win. Even so, the fact that Satoru Gojo is present in the plot already takes away the dramatic weight of several moments that could be more impactful, as there's always the possibility that Gojo will appear and the entire fight will end there at the same time. But the Monio, Gojo is not invincible. I watched the episode of the fight against Megumi and he is defeated relatively easily even though he is very powerful. Well, in fact he was momentarily defeated, but in a short time, he completely recovers from his injuries, comes back and defeats Megumi, so we can say that in the end he won. In addition, Megumi fought with an inexperienced Gojo, who had not yet mastered with her powers. Megumi would have no chance against the current Gojo, with all her skills already mastered. Another anime that suffers from this same problem is Dragon Ball Super, since unlike Phase C, in which the power scale advanced based on the villain's power, in Dragon Ball Super we have, for example, Beerus, who is absurdly strong and who can simply erase anyone from existence with its power. So why didn't the Bills just erase Moro from existence? Why doesn't he do this with all the villains? Well, because the script always invents a situation that prevents him from acting, but in practice that problem could be easily resolved, which leaves everything weightless. A good example is when the Earth is destroyed in Dragon Ball Super, and Whis simply says that he can go back in time and the Earth comes back at the same time, and that is the feeling of having an ultra-powerful character, that in the worst-case scenario, everything will still be fine. But the Monio, so following this logic, One Punch Man also has a very big problem with Saitama. And I'll tell you that not so much, since One Punch Man does have the fact that Saitama is invincible and that this theoretically harms the other characters, but that's just in theory, because One Punch Man is a little different from other conventional shonens, firstly because the anime and manga know how to get around the problem of Saitama defeating everyone with one punch and how boring that could become, and because it is a parody based on breaking expectations of what would normally happen in shonen. This reduction in dramatic weight in fights don't become a problem since we are dealing with a comedic element. In the case of Gojo, the best solution is what the story is already doing, leaving Gojo aside and focusing on other characters to resolve the conflicts. The problem is that Gojo is very popular among the Jujutsu fandom in general, and there are signs that the author of the work himself doesn't like the character very much, but that he feels pressured to use the character more because of the fans. Since if it were up to the fans, Gojo would easily beat everyone, because that's what the fans they want to see Gojo humiliating all the villains and beating everyone and everything easily, and I admit that that would be really cool to see, but how to do that in a way that the story doesn't become boring and unchallenging? What do you think? Leave it in the comments, and subscribe to the channel to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.